Welcome back to Deep Thoughts, ladies and gentlemen. You know, you forget you didn't take a shower. You pull down your hair later in the day. You're like, oh, wow, this stuff doesn't perform like it normally does. You see, it got to like almost 90 degrees today. I think it's about low 60s right now. And I just stayed up really late working on a project, and then I bounced up and down. And then it was really hot out, and I was like, man, I'm not going to lose this heat because I got up a little late. So I just put the clothes on, jumped out. Too much information, I understand. So this episode, as you can tell, is about a subject that if you're drawn to it, you know a lot about it probably. But here's the interesting thing. I don't know about you, but when someone first said, oh man, there's shape-shifting lizard people on planet Earth, and you know, they've infiltrated every position of power, especially the monarchy of England. And what's really fascinating about it is it's what I might call like a paralyzing concept of discernment. Your discerning nature is paralyzed by the assertion. And it's not like you're scared. It's just, it's such a big concept. You're like, what? What are you talking about, man? And there's all this, bogus low bandwidth encoding, which was really big in 2005. People still on modems in 2005. And even when the internet was getting better, people were chatting with people on news shows. And when the compression algorithms fail, because they don't fail. When they fail to generate an accurate picture, it's because the pixel data only partially came through. And you can't go back and make it up. If pixels didn't show up for a particular frame, then it's guessing. Big gaps in the image. When that happens, things get, skewed up pretty badly. So round pupil, for instance, will turn into a slit right there on the camera, and people are like, see, man, that's it. The funny thing was that the substitute color for a complete catastrophic loss of image data was the color green. It's just, they usually use very loud colors in those situations so that as a programmer, that data did not come through. Case in point, when I first started using Blender, which is a 3D package in case you guys don't know, I download like a Lamborghini or download something, the model for free, and I open it up in Blender and the whole world is purple, super bright purple. And what I didn't realize about that was that the textures that are supposed to be on the warehouse walls, on the paint of the car, either aren't linked properly or they can't rightfully sell me that. They can't give that away, basically. So you have to come up with your own textures. And that way, if you lose one while you're working on a project, that thing turns purple and you're like, oh my God, I got to go find where that is on my hard drive. This all will make sense. I did manage to shave this morning. So if you are a regular of the show, then you know sort of how I do what I do. If you're new to the show, here's what we do. We take these concepts that we just have automatically swallowed or rejected even. We reject them without really thinking things through. We just go, oh, that's all bullshit. And you might be right. I'm not saying you're not wrong. I'm not saying you're not right or wrong. But we don't break it down and study what it really means to make these outrageous assertions. So what we're going to do on this show, because I already have a shape-shifting alien episode from yesteryear. You might want to redo that too, but why not just analyze it from a different situation and maybe repeat some of that content? I haven't seen it in years, personally. As a role player and a video game guy, I played a Champions role-playing game for like 6.5 months where I was a shapeshifter. It's really kind of ironic. I was Anubis. I was a geeky scientist, and then I was Anubis whenever I wanted to be. Okay. So let's think about sort of what the assertion is here. Not only are they shapeshifters, like Odo from Deep Space, what is it, Deep Space Nine? Deep Space 9? Deep Space 6? I can't remember. Deep Space Nine. But they have to be lizard people, too. That's the weird connection that I think is fascinating. Now, we will review a little bit of the sort of evidence that man, David Icke is right. There's a lot of lizard worshipping, dragon worshipping in this world, reptile worshipping. What's funny about it is I never heard him mention, and I mentioned it several times on the show, but when you look at the pharaohs from yesteryear, they have like a cobra right over the third eye, as if there's some symbology of a reptilian control mechanism. I doubt they had Carl Sagan's reptilian R-factor brain thing figured out, but maybe they did. And his assertion with the R-factor brain is that at the basis of all life, and we see it all the time in wild animals, there's just the R-factor of survival. That's what he means by that. It's 1:45, and the amount of traffic going on right now is insane. Really weird. Oh, you know what it is? All the bars are getting out. That's what's going on. So, again, everything has a purpose, right? As I always say on this show. So you have to figure out a couple things here. Because I think we can agree, being a very formidable lizard race that has interstellar travel figured out, and if you believe we're in a dome, then they have interdimensional travel. It doesn't really make any sense with the dome for me personally. It would seem weird that they would make a dome and put a human beings inside of it and then just watch us. It's like a reverse zoo scenario, right? I guess it's possible. But let's just stick with heliocentric normal universe theory. They're out there as a race. It's like the guy Captain Kirk fought at Apple Valley. They talk. They're super duper brilliant. I mean, the level of brilliance that one is asserting through sheer emulation alone is sci-fi to the mega sci-fi. Just imagine. You and I, let's reverse the equation. We just happen to be omnipotent, super powerful human beings. We have achieved the Krell from Forbidden Planet. We've built a reactor that's at the center of our planet, and it can create anything out of our imagination. We can become a monster if we want to. So we have this chameleon capability. It's 100% intact. Not a single molecule's out of whack when we turn our little cloaking machine on or whatever it is. So we fly to some other solar system, somewhere in the galaxy, somewhere in the universe. We find this cool group of fairly sophisticated, kind of Howard the Duck, reptilian people. They're interesting. They have art, they got music, they got rock and roll, they use drugs, whatever. I mean, they really all into the same stuff that we were into a long time ago. And we feel like, first of all, in our brilliant mind, we feel like we need to get down there and participate in their world. If we are barbaric creatures, like when the last horrific Star Trek that was made, that one real cool reptilian race, they actually, the art director did an amazing job. Okay, so they're like sort of Klingon-y a little bit. There's another reptilian race in Voyager. I can't remember. It was the one that always did all the hunting. If they were like that, they would hunt us down and kill us. They would, if they just want our planet and our stuff, well, they just poison the atmosphere, poison the water. I'm sure they got a few electromagnetic weapons they could unleash on us. If nothing else, just turn off all our resources through an EMP burst, and then we're just dead. Well, I haven't seen that happen. In fact, them trying to use the COOF to get their Agenda 2030, 99% reduction of population, they're certainly taking their sweet time, and I bet they'd go a hell of a lot faster if they could. Not happening. So we have this weird race. And the assertion is that they just want to participate. They want to control for some reason. And we know how they roll. They don't care about us. It's let them eat cake 24/7. So a weird sort of sociopathic brain that they're bringing to planet Earth. And you can configure this however you want to configure it, but I'm just going to go with the thing that keeps bouncing around the internet, which is this reptilian shape-shifting theory that will not die. And will not and cannot produce any evidence of such a thing, other than, again, streaming video that has encoding problems, which to the masses, I guess, who don't understand that technology, is just a miracle proof, man. So let's get down to the biology of what we're really talking about here, right? What is it? My buddy's big joke is quoting David Icke. And I don't even know if David said this, but he says, the queen's a lizard. And, there's all these, statements out there that are, if untrue, are just really immoral to make. From the David Icke camp, and I have a lot of respect for that guy. We don't agree completely about a lot of things, but that's all right. He makes me think, and I think that's the part I really like about that dude. His freedom speech on the steps of Parliament or whatever a few months back was epic, unbelievable. The song at the end's not my style, but what he said was like, whoa, my blood was like, yeah, But the queen being a lizard, and from his camp, he was saying that Princess Di confided in her personal assistant, was another woman, that she called the queen and the whole royal family the lizard people. You can't confirm that kind of stuff. I can't even confirm that the woman said this, because I've never seen an interview where she repeated such a thing. I think Scotland Yard rub her out if that was the case. So I've never heard that confirmed anywhere. How this guy's still alive is sort of a mystery to me. Because over there, they just fuck you up. They don't care. Alex Jones sitting in Austin, Texas. Well, you go after him, it's going to be on TV. Because the guy's got like 20 cameras, in his place. He just has these guys who aren't guilty of anything run outside and start filming it. Cell phones start streaming. They got everything locked in place, right? But David just sits in a little condo. I think it's in southeast or southwest England. I think maybe on an island at this point, but just one of those ones off the coast. Okay. So the biology of this is that you have this queen, which is a very petite woman, and I'm sure in her older age is even more petite than when she was, in her prime. They do have some great doctors over there or something, because they can seem to keep the queen alive. I have no doubt she'll make it to 100. I think her mother made it to 99, right? Apparently, a friend of mine, she said the queen has like 5 cocktails a day or something like that, and they made her calm down. They made her stop. They made her slow down, but she said she wasn't going to slow down. Well, I think that's interesting. The liver from some other universe. Perhaps that's the better evidence that she's a lizard. I don't know. But there's this issue about mass and energy that starts to kind of confine what's going on. Well, we'll give all the alternate theories of how this could occur. But the one witness, and I mentioned this in the Alien Dumb episode, I believe it was a British guy. He's sitting on a picnic table. He's out in the middle of like the wilderness or whatever, talking to some guy on the camera, and he's being very relaxed about what he's about to say. And he's almost a little tense. And he just said that he was working in one of these secret locations, I think in the United States, and he said he had to leave his office to go walk down the hallway to go to another place. In doing so, he steps into the hallway where there's other people. And he said he saw, 2 agents of some sort escorting this lizard dude who was, from what I could gather, like 6'8" or so, who seemed to be very monotone. Didn't seem to be an experiment, right? It didn't seem like, he didn't say, oh my God, this guy like all fucked up in his face. He just said, it looked like a half man, half lizard thing. And he thought, this looked, he said, I just looked up and you're not supposed to do that. And so he looked away and he goes, I just thought immediately, well, this is something that they've engineered. Now, the weird thing about that story, if you listen to the interview, it's actually very believable, to be honest. He didn't have any of the call signs. Didn't touch his ear, touch his nose when he started saying the magic words. Would be that they would walk this guy down the hallway in the first place. It just seemed like this would be a really secret thing. I'm assuming that the lizard folks are probably as big as our normal tall man on planet. Well, at least a Caucasian tall guy. Let's say 6 feet, 6'2", somewhere in there. I'm just assuming that'd be kind of the basic geometry of those folks. What's interesting about, the ones that we have here on Earth, a cobra gets the same size as another cobra. Alligator, crocodile, was it the Komodo dragon? As long as you just let them grow, we look, these wildlife people just look at them and they can tell you how old they are. And at least, they can look at the patina of their scales and all kinds of stuff and just say, oh, this one looks really old. This one doesn't. Look in their eye sockets, look at the flesh around all the soft tissue, and they'll figure that stuff out really quickly. But the queen's this really small thing and always has been. She's 5'4", 5'3", 5'4", something like that. And I don't know if David Icke has asserted that she's always been this. I think it is. I think the assertion is the family's always been this, and they've been here for a very, very long time. Now, just to digress one moment, to just put these little pins in your head as we continue talking. There are a lot of coat of arms in the world, right? Alfa Romeo's logo is a dragon eating a guy. They lie and say he's giving birth to the guy, but I know people with that coat of arms in their shield, and they're like, no, that dude's eating the guy. It's always been that way. Why they lie, I don't know. But in the coat of arms lineage, as I understand it, the unicorn is the sort of angelic character to have on your shield. The dragon kills the unicorn, and the lion can kill the dragon. And so it's sort of your alignment. If you're a lion, like my family, you're there to kill the dragon, to protect the unicorn. It's a very interesting thing, man. What people think about chevrons and, the Red Cross, the sort of Templar shields, I don't know how that connects back to anything other than those movements, right? But if you have this biology that's big, how on earth would they hold the shape of something that is not their native shape? You would think that that would be something that would have to be learned because you have your indigenous genetics that are going to hold the line and be a lizard. And then if you're going to become an old lady, I guess that's a female lizard, perhaps, right? She lays eggs or something. I don't know. But this idea, and this is where I think, a lot of you just instinctually, I think, accurately reject such theories because way back down inside your head, you just got good logic and you just go, nah, that totally doesn't compute. Not going there. I got to pick my battles in life. I got to move on. There's other conspiracies that are actually more important to me, and that's the way it works. Probably the majority of you that don't believe it. But for those of you who do, the idea is, how do you believe this? And did you really break down what we're about to talk about here? The assertion that these folks reveal themselves goes like this. David Icke said that a woman came up to him once because he was, questioned. I believe Jesse Ventura was so rude to him. It was unbelievable, which I don't like. It's like, come on, dude. You just got access to a pretty unique guy. Ask your questions, and you can disagree with him, and you can get frustrated with his statements, but you don't have to be rude. I mean, if I interviewed David Icke, I would definitely have a lot of things I totally agree with. Some things I might disagree with because I put a lot of thought into it. That'd be the only reason why I disagree with that guy. I'd have to think it through because he's no shallow man. And there'd just be a bunch of stuff where he would be saying things and I would have never heard them before. And so I just on the spot would have to react or not react right. But David tells the story of a woman that came up to him and said that when she was being pulled over by a sheriff, I don't know why that's important, that she was arguing her ticket and he just went to the next level. He got really pissed off. And when he did, according to this woman and according to David, listening to this woman, she said that he yelled at her and his face transformed as if he couldn't hold it in. There are pictures of Secret Service guys who protected the inauguration ceremony of Barack Obama. And there was a really, I don't know who the real guy was, but man, it looked a weird, pasty white guy with really smooth features. It was really strange. He was a big, tall kid. So I don't know who the hell that guy was. But the other assertion is that they're in the middle of these interviews, like Nicki Minaj, for instance, and again, the encoding thing hit her eyeballs and they slid on her. The thing is, you might be going, well, why just the eyeballs, man? Why would the whole body go? If it's just this encoding thing, why wouldn't the whole image be really screwed up? Well, one, you're not looking whether or not her zipper turned into some other shape. It blurred for a split second. You don't care. You would think that was an encoding problem because what is she simulating her clothes too? The reason why the eyes do this little trick is because they're moving a lot. You're blinking your eyes up and down. You're moving them left and right. And that makes the compression algorithm process that area of the image. The game with video compression is don't replace the pixel unless it drastically changes. The higher the quality of broadcasting, it cranks up the compression algorithm such that it's transmitting all of the pixels because you have a nice bandwidth. It can transmit the whole image. Let's say it's 1080p, but you have such a loud, fat pipe, you're able to get down to like the equivalent of 4K. So it's 4 1080p images. In that case, they'll ship every single pixel that they possibly can because they got a buffer that's so big on the pipe that they got replacement pixels if you got any problem. That's generally how it works, okay? But let's just keep going in case someone doesn't buy that theory. The assertion then is that somehow when they're completely relaxed on TV, they, I guess, forget how to be a human being in these particular areas of their bodies. Can you imagine trying to hold your genome together and then someone else's genome together and then function in society? With the Queen, it's a little bit easier because you could say, oh, well, she hides in Buckingham Palace. She's out very seldom. But then what about the two sons? What about Charles? What about all these other folks that are supposed to be these people who do get out in public and mingle a lot? What is it? The Queen's sister was a partier. As far as I could tell from all the information I've ever heard about her, she's actually was a pretty cool lady. Much more hip, I would say. Less into the monarchy thing. Okay, well, that chick was going out there. I don't mean call her a chick, but that woman was going out there and getting drunk and partying. You would think that if you got intoxicated, which we know Prince Harry has done several times as he wore his grandfather's Nazi uniform to a Halloween party, you get intoxicated. Aren't you going to lose a little bit of your faculties? I mean, trying to hold that shape is going to be something that would probably preoccupy your brain a little bit. If the technology to shapeshift is so automated, then any shapeshifting doesn't make any sense because you just have this little battery pack. Instead of your diabetes machine, it's your little cloaking device that just simply makes people see what you want them to see. But then there's video cameras that can't be hypnotized. Now, when David Icke was seriously pushed on this by Jesse Ventura for sure, he goes into this theory that the human eyes can only see a tiny fraction of the frequencies that are out there in the universe of vibrating light. And technically, he's correct. When you go get an X-ray, you don't actually see the X-ray occur. In fact, it's disturbingly not there. When you get a CAT scan, you don't see these waves going into your body. If you did, you probably wouldn't crawl into the machine. Not without a good purpose. So he's right. Now, the interesting thing about that for me is that it doesn't have any association with, for me, the ability for an alien being with, again, some objective that has never been defined to create this shape-shifting human being. I mean, it would be, in that case, it would be more it would be more in line with, say, gray aliens that live in a slightly different dimension of existence such that we can't see them. Now, I mentioned this several times for the OG listeners, so please bear with me as the new folks come on board with this knowledge I picked up from an anthropologist online. The visual cortex of the brain is approximately 5 slices of cheese. Yes, those cheese slices you buy at the grocery store. A little smaller than that, but it's on the back of your brain. It's called your visual cortex. And there's 5 layers of cells dedicated to translating the upside down and backwards image that your eyes project back there to be recognized by the brain. Now, with the anthropologist, who was a big Bigfoot guy, which, I don't believe in Bigfoot for mating reasons, but he said, look, the first layer is only implemented 50%, and the other 4 layers aren't touched. And he said there's protein blockers that basically cross across the first layer of your visual cortex, blocking the data that comes in. That old saying, we only use 5% of our brain. You don't know where that was sourced. It's sourced over to Einstein, but it's I don't know if he ever said that. And I don't think he meant literally. I think he meant everyone in the world seems really stupid. So I'm just going to say they only use 5% of their brain. And I'm also telling you indirectly that everyone has a tremendous amount of potential that they never touch on. 95% of everyone's potential is untouched. That I might agree with. I think 5 is a little low, but I definitely think we all have capabilities we barely tap into unless we get serious with life, right? But if you take 100% and you divide it by 5, you got how many percentage? 20% in each slice. Now take one of those and divide it in half. You're only using 10% of your visual cortex. Why on earth would that happen through evolution? The only thing I could think of to support any evolutionary claim for that would be that whatever man was seeing that had more than 10% was so utterly debilitating and terrifying that they committed suicide, they killed each other, and the only folks that ever remained were the folks that couldn't see what was stirring everything up. Either that or the other 90%, is indicative of how to get on a spaceship and leave this joint. So you're like, oh, there's a spaceship over there. Well, let's just hop in there. And the other 10, the 10%ers are like, what spaceship, I think it's if you genuinely believe it, I feel like it is a noble thing to say, well, to cite this like side fact to go, okay, well, I'm going to prove to you that a bunch of the universe is unobserved by our being. But to layer that on top of something because you're losing a battle of believing in something and espousing something that you've never personally seen before, that's sort of like tampering with your integrity, in my opinion. Now, I personally have owned a couple of David's books. I think I still own his most famous one, where it really breaks this one down. But it was interesting in the book. His books read a little bit like this. He does an amazing amount of research, and he really shows you things. And one of the things the book really pointed at was how Asian cultures have dragons in their parades, how, white people put gargoyles all over their buildings, which are very lizard-like, very kind of demon. They're gargoyles. I mean, they're really their own little thing. But he has this shaman in South Africa who must be passed by now, because he was almost 90 years old when David was talking about this, and I think around 2007. This is where I get the thing about Zulu meaning people from space. But there's a lot of artifacts in the world where it looks like gray alien type beings, almond-eyed beings, which can also be construed as snake heads, kind of a lizard type person. And this shaman had this necklace that apparently is like 700 years old. That's the claim anyway. And it has a woman, a very voluptuous sort of African doll mother figure on this thing. And there's this weird reptilian male behind her on the necklace. Apparently it's really heavy. And it had a phallus made of gold that was penetrating the woman from behind. The phallus had been stolen since it was originally created, so a wooden one was put in its place so no one would ever steal it. And he has this thing, and he takes photographs of it and puts it in his book. Now, again, David's courage is to look at the world and simply acknowledge it as literal, to just interpret the world as literal first instead of allegory or fable. I think that's healthy, because I think that we could lose a lot of our history having sensationally amazing things that really did occur being pushed into fable, and then we can dismiss it and not gain any wisdom from it, let alone our history. But his books have a lot of references of, people who channeled things, There's really nothing off limits in a David Icke book. And I know that might seem very new age and very, well, it might seem like a good reason not to read any of his books. There's a couple levels of fascination with it, though. Let's say that you're cynical about all this kind of stuff, and I respect that. You're like, oh my God, this is, you know. Well, if you were tired of hearing, for instance, all these theories about Bigfoot, how would you combat the assertion that Bigfoot exists? If you're tired of hearing it, you want to shut it down. You don't want to tell people they can't say what they want to say. That's not what I'm saying. But you want to be able to sit in a debate and destroy the theory because you don't believe it exists. Then you need to do your research. You need to learn what they're telling you and to do what we're doing in this episode to break it down. That's what I did with, I think it's episode 300. This is my Bigfoot episode. So if you want to go after this reptilian thing, you need to get educated about everything everyone's ever said about this theory. And sadly, a lot of what's online is starting from the point that this is true and there's no doubt that these things are true. And so let's make up a bunch of stories. However, in all my research, and you might have the source and lay it on me, I've never heard anyone talk about the overall agenda of the reptilians except to run the world into the ground. It's like a narcissistic genome. You know, it's like we got to run a planet somewhere. Let's go find ourselves a planet. Okay, you know, you got the shape-shifting machine. You got the batteries all charged up because I don't want to be out there doing a speech and then all of a sudden I turn into myself. You know, you remember last time how that didn't go very well. We had to eat everybody. You know, at least with like Planet X theories, you've got this absurd theory that they have to steal gold from our planet to inject it in their atmosphere to save their planet of Nibiru, right? Okay. You got interstellar travel. You have genetic splicing down, so you can make a hybrid race of people that are going to dig gold out of the ground. Go see my episode on shiny people. But you can't do fusion, you know? You can't just take dirt and pound it in a machine and get gold out. I mean, you know, if your planet's going to end, you don't need profit for anything. You'll just do what you need to do, because if you don't, you and everyone you know, including your whole family line, is going to disappear. Just bring me a ham sandwich every 4 hours. That's all you need. And everyone would work around the clock inventing these machines and running them. We would. But I don't think that was the case. But the idea that you're looking at a broadcast of them and you're catching them doing these morphing moments, right? Because they're losing track of their algorithm, means that you're really staring at their flesh. That whatever reptilian body they have, which if you listen to the guy who said he saw one in the hallway, okay, so it's sort of alligator-y, it's sort of sneaky, it's got scales, it has armor on it and that kind of thing, just indigenously built into the body. The epidermis is just a shell, just like an alligator, crocodile. And somehow that becomes really soft, pink flesh. That is a very, very different set of genetic code. And the idea that you can somehow change your genetic code and then automatically convince all the cells to morph as a result of your programming means that your body at that point is sort of a fluid hologram of existence. It is refreshing every split second of every moment that we're looking at each other. Now, the only thing that makes sense to me that might explain some of this stuff, besides sort of the incredible shrinking woman theory, which is that there's a lot of space between particles, and so you can take a 6'8" lizard dude, and because there's space between the atomic currents that make us up out of ether, that you could compress those and you can get a much smaller version, which would be very dense. That means that if you were to arm wrestle Queen Elizabeth, she'd rip your arm off, She'd be Superman. Superwoman, But now if this is a projected reality, if this is a consensus reality algorithm, meaning you see me because I grew up with my own face as whatever projected on me by my parents, I adopt that template, and then I continue to evolve myself. And so you see what I want you to see. It's your soul looking at my soul. And you're not actually projecting a view of me The algorithm is totally different. The algorithm is you look at my soul and you do a query into my soul, and your query is, what do you look like? And the query comes back from my soul. It's like this. Now, what's different about it is this video camera is just recording the waves of ether bouncing off my face. The LCD is just recording the frequencies of ricocheting energy. So the video camera shouldn't be able to lie. Just like the sunglasses in They Live. You put those babies on and it penetrated this hypnotic thing that was going on to keep all the aliens from being viewed. Go see my episode on They Live if you dig that movie, or if you haven't seen it. But you should go see it first. John Carpenter, 1987. One of the best movies ever made. Nope, it looks like it's not a consensus reality model. It would be that we, again, are being generated every measurable, the most infinitesimal microsecond, nanosecond. I think a nanosecond is one of the smallest measurements of time that we typically talk about in a science lab. It's dealing with some sort of light. No, these guys are able to talk to their DNA. I mean, it's like this. I think I'm correct in saying, after working with the Folding at Home project in Stanford, if I were to take every protein in your body and we could figure out some supercomputer could figure out how to turn you directly into a lizard person or whatever you want to be, whatever would still function as a living being and be able to eat and excrete and operate all of your optics and whatever, your brain. And I could magically hit you with this laser beam, whatever it is, and I could take every protein pattern in your body, which are, there's trillions of them in your body. That's what tells your DNA what to do. That's why you're like a earthworm. That's why you're like a monkey. That's because your DNA is just the building blocks in Legos. You could get every Lego block that's ever been made and then separate the unique ones. It's a big collection of Legos. But that's what the whole world is made out of. There's only a few unique Legos that you use that an earthworm doesn't use. But your protein patterns are the schematic inside the IKEA furniture, as I always say. It tells you how to create the Millennium Falcon instead of creating a little space station from 1982 or whatever. It's more complex. But if I could take all of your protein patterns and just say, boom, the next round of cells you create are going to start turning you into this lizard thing, you're going to have to wait about 7.5 years for your body to regenerate every single cell in your body to make it compatible with this new form, visually. I mean, let's say we could keep your internal organs human and your external body, your hair and your epidermis and your teeth and your eyeballs and your ears, everything sort of you can look into or see on the outside would be reptilian. It'd take a long time. And because it all fades in like a JPEG over the internet, it's going to be different pockets of your skin is going to start to get weird, But you're not going to be able to do it real time. If you're going to account for real-time transformation, then you're going to have to invent a completely new theory of what we are. Now, we know, because of the internet especially, that there are people all around the world suffering from incredibly bizarre, I think, experiments or byproducts of depleted uranium being sprayed all over the Middle East. We got people with skin that looks like bark. They look like trees. It's remarkable. And they go off and get surgeries and get that stuff cut down, but it's going to grow back. They can't neutralize the protein pattern that's been screwed up. You have the elephantitis issue, where you have multiple things going on. You have the elephant man syndrome. We had a woman in my hometown that had that, non-contagious, but she grew these round, tumorous skin clumps on her body, and she just had hundreds of them, if not thousands of them, on her face and her body. And your heart goes out for her, because I was a clerk at Walmart as a kid, and she come through, and of course she's the sweetest thing on planet Earth, and she's worried about what we think. She doesn't want to freak us out, but she's got a shop, and we all treat her like gold. We have different states of albino. We have all kinds of different things. A lot of times folks grow up, they're born into the world without any major issue. And some of them, are caught through some virus, through some infection that starts to create this issue. But it's slow. Plus, I think it's funny. If you're a person that believes in the reptilian thing, then you really should probably believe just about every plausible conspiracy that's out there. Because the chasm that you're asking your colleagues and your friends and your acquaintances to jump over in order to get to where you are is pretty massive. The reason why I say that is that we are saying that in all of recorded history, at no point in a really well-documented moment, now, we've had video cameras covering major events now, let's just say for the last 35 years in a fluid way, 24-hour news, etc., and no one has gone up to a podium and lost it in a live broadcast. I mean, we'll go back to the eye thing in a second. But I mean, completely lost it, man. The queen's out there. She's tired. She drank too many cocktails that day. She's having a great day, man. She's just great. And then she just kind of, for a split second, forgets to hang on to that form. Which means, again, if anyone's having to hang on to that form, then that's a conscious thing that you're having to do constantly. It'd be like trying to keep a fist tight all day long. Could you imagine? And you could chalk it up to they're different. It's easier for them. Okay. All right. Maybe. Now, the eye thing for a while there was more intriguing because the idea would be you're a hybrid and you just have extra muscles in your eye, like a cat, like, creatures that do have these slitted eyes. That made more sense to me. But then the other one is, how are you ever making them round? Again, a conscious effort. I will say, no matter where I've ever seen Prince Charles in his entire lifetime, I think only the skits he did with Monty Python. It was some British Air Force skit or something. It was actually, I wish he had stayed like that, stay cool, man. Keep making funny stuff with the Pythons and you'll be loved. You'll be king before you know it, man. But that dude's always like really reserved. I mean, really relaxed, just chilled out, and you don't get that sense of tenseness. Maybe that would be a result of trying to hang on to your form. I don't know. The queen the same way. Now, the queen looks a lot tighter to me. She looks like a lot more trying to keep up appearances. There's a protocol for how she's supposed to behave. Let's just say kings and queens were good people, and it was a wonderful job. I mean, in terms of the way people, you took care of the people, you got to borrow the big house like the White House, but nothing was yours. When it's over, you just go live a modest life somewhere. But you had to follow the protocol. I mean, for me, that, just as a digression statement, just seems like a nightmare. I mean, you got to sit a certain way, can't use certain ways of communicating. You got to wear certain clothes on a certain day. It's like, whew. Maybe for a week, but not much more than that. Now, one of the other sort of right angle, I guess, logic problems for me, there's a lot of symbolism in the world, right? Symbolism will be their downfall. Okay. So is the all-seeing eye on the back of the dollar bill in the United States a lizard eye or just a human eye? It's a human eye. I always assumed it kind of came from the Ankh in Egypt. But you have Queen Semiramis and her two owls. Okay. Owls, not snakes. Owls. Not lizards. Owls. Queen Semiramis, well, depending on what picture you're looking at, she either will look like sort of a more voluptuous Middle Eastern woman, or she will look like the Statue of Liberty, which is what she has looked like apparently for quite a while. But it looks like she may have, well, actually, you know what? There's a coin that goes back to 4500 BC. This shows her sitting on a throne and holding a reed, which is all the people tied up. So who knows? Who knows how long she's looked one way or the other, but she's not a lizard person. Strange, right? There's the obsession with the obelisk, which is typically attributed to the Masons. The Masons went obelistic, and the money changers went Queen Semiramis / Statue of Liberty / the Paramount logo, what have you. All these icons out there, like the CBS logo, the Google, Chrome icon, all of these 666 eyeball things. Doesn't ABC have one too? CBS and ABC find a way to do it. It's all just normal eyeballs. So if they run the world and they love symbolism, I am missing the one reptilian symbol that is their symbol structure. I mean, is it just that they're covert and they don't want to show anything, but they feel cool with owls? And I think owls were one of the beings that could kill the living shit out of a snake, right? I mean, hell, a cat usually can tear a snake a new asshole. So the idea is like, why would you worship one of your worst nemesis? I mean, owls got claws like freaking eagle, Why is it that the Alpha Romeo logo has a dragon eating a dude? Why would anyone anthropomorphize themselves into some other being? Unless maybe it has some truth to it, or it is their vision of the heart of that group of people. I've definitely dated some girls who I would say are unicorns, man. If they were to transpose out of human form, they just turn into like this angel and just run away, And I've definitely dated some dragons, let me tell you. But the dragon thing, I mean, the only thing I could say is if you were to go back and think about the fable of a dragon story, think about it for 1 second. You're in 500 BC, 500 AD, 1000 AD, 1500 AD. But they still believe these beings exist. They draw maps of the ocean where dragons are in the ocean eating up ships and stuff, right? It's a mysterious thing. It is a mystery is something that is usually scary. It's formidable to the brain. Oh my God, you're a lizard? I mean, like you're a dragon? What? That would be a little weird. Now, if I said my family aligned itself with the more paladin, lawful good lion race, that we're just born to do good. Believe me, we have some turd people in our family too, but then you would know if you'd ever traveled what a lion looks like. If nothing else, someone could have killed a lion in Africa and dragged up the skin to Europe, and you could at least see what the head looks like and how big it is and that kind of thing. But no one's ever going to be able to bring in a dragon skin. So it stays mysterious. Same thing for the unicorn. Unicorn is typically a pure of heart being, right? But now the coat of arms for like the Windsor Sex Goatberg family is, I think, if I remember right, it's all three animals together with like chains around the unicorn. If I remember that right. In fact, let me look that up and verify real quick. So the coat of arms for the Windsor family, there's a couple different ones, right? There's ones with no animals on it. There's ones with a unicorn on the left, a lion on the right. But the one for the monarch family is two dragons on both sides of the same crest in the center. So to David's point, there's a lot of worship of these dragons. It may simply be because they're perceived as one of the greatest fabled powers, an unknown power, sort of what we think of a dragon in sort of a sort of Lord of the Rings realm, or even Game of Thrones realm, right? Now, the obsession with this is really mysterious to me because we got real problems in this world, right? And this archetype of the following, which is that there are supposedly evil people out there with infinite power. And they want to do us harm. Okay, so why don't they? They got infinite power, and they want to do us harm. So what's taking so long? What is taking so long? Why are they being so nice to us if they want to get rid of us, and they can get rid of us through all these different means? Logic there, right? We are told that virtually every alien race that we ever hear about has that sort of profile, which is why folks like Dr. Stephen Greer always espouse the opposite. They're like, look, he does that math. He's like, if these Greys wanted to do us harm, they would, and we'd be done. Whoever they might be. I mean, Grey, whatever. Mauve, doesn't matter. The other theory that kind of backs into this whole thing is the theory that it was portrayed in a Twilight Zone where a spaceship had crashed at the beginning of the episode and two cops go out to check it out. And all they can find is some footsteps that came out of this frozen lake. And they follow the footsteps and they look in the distance and a lit cafe is in the distance, like a diner, middle of the night. And so logically they go to the diner and they go inside and they find a bunch of people in there and there's a bus outside and the bus basically had to pull over because the bridge down the street has got a bunch of integrity issues because of the storm. They're checking it out. The engineers are trying to make sure it's safe. And so the cops asked the bus driver, hey man, how many people did you have on your bus? I think the number was 6. And he goes, yeah, well, you have 7 people in this room. Hey, guy who runs the place. And he says, yeah. And he goes, how many people were in here before the bus got in? He says, nobody was in here before the bus. He goes, you got one person you didn't account for. Did you just miscount? He's like, no, I didn't miscount. And so he could remember a couple of the people on the bus. This beautiful woman who was in Body Snatchers from 56 is in there. He goes, oh, I remember her. She definitely, you wouldn't forget her. She says, oh, thank you, But there's couples in there. And so this sort of algorithm he's done before in the series, everyone starts kind of fighting with each other. I'm going to spoil this for you, but if you haven't seen a show that's over, almost 60 years old, well, that's shame on you. But it gets to this point where they really can't figure out who's who. The room's got a jukebox playing and like a salt shaker explodes. A bunch of weird crap's going on. There's this crazy bastard in the group that's just worth watching the whole episode for. This is a nutbag old guy. I can't even describe it any other way. I saw him in a movie where he wasn't crazy. I was like, ooh, that's a big switch this guy did. But the cops get the message that the bridge is okay. He says, okay, well, and he's got this fucking asshole in the room, this business guy. He's like, I got to be in Boston tomorrow. You're going to drive that bus across that bridge. And he says, man, I'm not driving across that bridge unless they say it's okay. He says, well, I'm going to hold you to it. So when the cops say it's good to go, they get in the bus, they go. 5 minutes later, theoretically in the show, the dude comes back in. This asshole comes back in. And he's like, can I get a cup of coffee? And the dude running the joint's like, weren't you on that bus? And he says, yeah. Turns out the engineers were wrong. The bus driver was right. The bridge gave way. The bus went into the river down below. Everybody died. And he goes, but how did you survive? He says, I don't know. He says, well, you're not even wet. And he goes, what's wet? So obviously this business dude's the alien guy. There's a reason why I mentioned this story. So the guy ends up behind the counter. He's like, oh, really? You're an alien? Oh, my God. And then he says, the guy, he's lighting a cigarette, and they did this little stunt where they had a third arm. The guy had a third arm. So he had an actor, playing the third arm. It was really well done. Let me tell you, it's like somebody had got this gag all the way down. And so the third arm, they're lighting, and he's talking, he's drinking, and it's like 3 arms, and he's doing his thing. And he says, actually, I'm not from Earth. I'm from Mars. I think he says from Mars. And he said, he says, the whole invasion force is coming to Earth. And I'm just part of the evaluation group that comes first. And he says, it's going to be our place, right? Well, then the dude who's been running the place the whole time, he's got this, like one of those little diner caps on that are split down the center, right? The ones they wear at In-N-Out Burger. Well, he takes his little hat and he lifts it up, and there's a third eye literally at the center of his forehead. So he's got a cycloptic eye in his forehead. And he says, well, it's either Venus or Mars. I got it in my head backwards, but I think that guy says, well, we're from Venus. We've been here a lot longer than you. We killed everybody from your place. And that little invasion fleet you think is going to come here, it's already been taken care of. You're going to be taking, orders from us. And they just roll credits. It's great. Why mention that in the middle of this episode? Well, the assertion is the following. That somehow there were humans on Earth, pure, all humans on Earth, and these fucking dudes showed up, these lizard people, and they're like, we're going to run the show from now on. Now, you've seen 1,000 movies and television shows that do this kind of thing. V was one of them, right? It's weird that V was made, because V was a bunch of reptilian people living underneath sort of human skin shells or something. But then it was, again, a mass-to-mass equation, meaning none of them could have been the Queen of England because she's so teeny. So you got some humans, and they're being threatened by this, I guess, invading race somehow. Who, again, is taking their sweet time. Taking their sweet time to do some final play. Apparently been here for thousands of years. So it suggests that just a tiny group of these folks can intimidate man when man is completely barbaric. I mean, we're just ready to kill everything constantly, and we surrender to these folks somehow. Is it magic tricks? And there's no tales of this stuff? There's no tales of these folks landing and dominating? How many monarchies could they dominate? All of them? From all regions of the world? You mean the Arabs are going to hide the stories that they heard about the Christian sects of Europe and Great Britain being taken over by this force? Don't know. But it would also suggest that an invasion force would be coming. Where's the invasion force? Where's the final play? What is the final play? Hell, what's the play right now? To just dominate? So I'm going to get into kind of sort of a final anecdote, or at least towards the end here, which is an old story that one of the initial listeners of MK Ultra Radio, my show before this one, contacted me, proved who she was. I mean, she proved it in all kinds of different ways, and then she got pissed off at me when I made this show. She loved this show, but she was, she liked the word mortal coil for some reason. I don't get that at all. She wouldn't tell me why she was pissed off I used mortal coil. She just said, "Boy, you better not use that word. I'm out of here." But everyone was on this woman's case. I don't know what the deal is. But she was one of the orphans at the orphanage in Canada when Queen Elizabeth and Prince Philip comes over and adopts like 7 kids or something. I can't remember what the number was. So a bunch of kids didn't get adopted. A bunch of them did. But I talked to her on the Skype 2 or 3 times for hours. She was just sitting in her living room, really dark, and she said, "Look, man, they took us down to this river. All those stories you heard are true. We had to kiss her feet. We're right by this river. We're doing a picnic outside. It was the strangest non-royal thing you've ever seen. She didn't eat. She was just there and sort of evaluating which kids that she was going to adopt. And if you haven't heard this story, it's fascinating. There's all kinds of videos online about it. But what happened was everybody grew up. Everyone grew up, and so they're like, hey, we got the internet now. Let's reach out and try to find where these kids went, because they got adopted by the Windsor family, for God's sakes. I mean, somebody had to become something. Best education in the world, best medicine in the world. They should be alive at least, right? Well, the way this story goes, okay, again, this woman proved where she was from, and she even gave me her doctor's psychiatric evaluations, which talked about where she was from and that she was involved with this event, and there's articles written about her and all this other stuff. They can't find those kids. They can't find those kids. Well, when you think about all the human problems we have in this world of people being traded like commodities in the world, that's not terribly hard to believe. You got, again, the king and queen of Norway having like 7 to 13 children's bodies found on their estate way in the back. And a guy tried to kill him with a car during some event, and they managed to stop the car, and he's getting dragged out of the car. And in the native tongue, he's saying, "Help me, they're trying to kill our children." So, and David is taking a whole film crews out to these weird altars made of stone that look really old in England, and said this is right where they do it, where they've done a lot of these things, and implicated the Windsor family, and just, it's like, again, how this guy's still alive, I don't know. And I'll just repeat a story I've said a couple times on shows many, many years ago, but I have a very close friend of mine in England, very credible human being, okay, very brilliant human being. And he told me a story about his buddy that was a reporter for, I think, the BBC, and he was going to do some hit piece on I think it was it's the royal relative that spends a lot of time in Monaco, but it was some family member he's going to do a hit piece on him. And he had Scotland Yard guys. Well, he doesn't quite know. He was in the Parliament building just doing some normal rounds of news gathering. And these two guys, pulled him into a room and told him that the story was going to be killed and not to try anything, beyond that point. He told my buddy, he says, look, they were the two nicest guys on planet Earth. I mean, really super cordial, very intelligent, but I wouldn't want to piss either one of them off because they were also very, very physical, at least, big guys. So anyone can say all this stuff about the Windsor family over and over and over. It just astonishes me. Maybe it's because David Icke, was a famous soccer goalie. Then he became this famous sports announcer. Then he pops out in '89 with all these theories, maybe it's just too obvious. But I mean, the thing about these guys is that when they get bad health, he's got a fairly good gut in the front, and he's stressed out, and you can just have him have a heart attack, and who's going to dispute that? Untraceable, but he doesn't. So it's almost like an aristocrat joke that just won't end, Did I tell you what they did? Did I tell you what they did? So the reason I mentioned the orphanage thing is that there are very, very straightforward rituals that happen in this world at those levels. I'm not saying that they do them. They never explain where these kids went. It was very traumatizing to some of these kids, especially this woman who just, I think, had a third eye for this kind of stuff. Bless her heart. The other rationale that I kind of understand, I've never heard this explained by anybody or said to be the case by anybody in the world, was that let's just say someone is evil for reason A, okay? But that reason A it's real. But if you explain that to the normal human being, they just can't accept it. It's so far beyond their pain threshold of what they can deal with without going into like shock. They're never going to believe you. And this really doesn't lend well to this theory. So you come up with reason B to get them to face justice. It's like Al Capone didn't get nailed for all the gangster stuff. He just got nailed for taxes, right? Mark Zuckerberg will hopefully be prosecuted for creating 1 million fake accounts and stealing money from all of us, right? They get you on something else that you did. The idea is if you had been convicted for the first thing, you would be put away, at least taken out of circulation. So if I can get that same thing to happen to you with reason B, then we can just make up reason B out of thin air. At least cast aspersions on you that you are not who you say you are. Maybe metaphorically, it's 1,000% correct. You aren't who you say you are. And so you go to battle. The lizard thing? Wow, that's a weird one. That is a weird one to hatch out of thin air and put forth. And what I don't know, and I didn't get this from his books, is that someone had to have incubated this prior to him, right? Someone had to have come up with this theory. I mean, I don't know, did David just, in his ayahuasca trip in South America, really come up with this out of thin air? Oh, by the way, the queen's a lizard? The other they live element to the story is that this woman talking about the sheriff. I believe over the years I've done this show and the other show, I believe I have had a couple people claim that they had seen things. I just have to listen and be patient with these folks. The only way that I could hear someone tell me such an outrageous claim without any evidence, which is tough, right? You have to be there or you're not going to see the UFO. I saw a UFO, right? If I said that, then you'd have to really know me really well and go, gosh, man, that guy's really trustworthy. It doesn't seem like he needs attention, even though he makes a bunch of episodes, but he's just not that kind of guy. And so, but if you knew me in a personal world and you're like, man, yeah, he doesn't even talk about his show. I mean, like he does this just all by himself. That's the case, man. I do this show and it's my little treasure, I don't walk around going, hey, I have a show. I mean, there's dudes like that have no content worth listening to and they can't stop talking about it. So it's just one of these things that's floating around the ether. What I really want to encourage you to do is every time something like this pops up, some outrageous claim, listen, get the information. If it starts to grow like a virus throughout society and it's alarming, but still outrageous, then you got to do your research. What has the whole thing from 2020 to now been about? It's been about a claim. A bunch of false data, usurping other data to give this credence to this other line of bullshit because they're trying to take all of our rights away. Well, you do your research when you don't believe it anymore, and it's immediately apparent that it's a lie. It's a complete lie. There's cures for the problem, and they demonize the cures while they email each other and say, this is what you need to take to make sure you don't even catch this thing. Get into it. Try to find resources. And the thing is if someone's bringing you the theory out of thin air, and this used to happen more at the lounge, but now we're so just tired of all these things. We've gotten over the knee-jerk impulse buy of believing things anymore because there's an infinite supply of them out there, isn't it? Really interrogate the person who's bringing it to you. Really try to find, and don't be confrontational is my opinion. Just try to say, oh, really? Wow, I've had people do it to me 100 times. And they don't believe what I'm saying, but they really want to know why I came to the conclusion, because in their mind, it's impossible for anyone to come to that conclusion. We want society to be calm and relaxed and not have all these boogeymen out there. If someone wants to tell a ghost story at your local camp outing, well, that's great. That's Grandpa just doing a little bit of entertainment. That's fun. He's telling you a story. I don't know, this just occurred to me really recently here, later today. I started thinking about this again. I thought, well, it's really strange. I never really got down to the biology of what the claim is. Just remember, if you think it's a mental projection like They Live, then even in the movie They Live, a camera pointing at the alien, shouldn't have worked. Because they're broadcasting. I mean, maybe it was one of these things that when you see that pattern recognition of the face, just like an AR logo or something, or a QR code, your brain was being programmed to mulch it back to its original form. But that's not the assertion. The assertion is that they're actually holding this form. Yeah, it's a lot of work. I'm glad I'm just a human being, right? Anyhow, let me know what you think. If you have other rabbit holes I can go down, just post them in the comments. I keep getting asked about how people can reach out to me. I need you to know that I'm beyond busy. I've got folks that I love to death, and I barely get a chance to talk to them, who live close to me. But some of my, even if they live far away, I would love to chat with them once a week, and it's so difficult. So it's just my work, plus doing this show and editing and all that kind of stuff. I mean, it's amazing I get all this stuff done at the same time. But the real answer is hit up any of the social media platforms. I know it sucks, but once we get communicating, we can take it off one of those platforms fairly quickly. I just kind of need to know where you're coming from. If you have this gigantic project and all this other stuff that you want me to get involved in, just please know the only way I can do that is to be financially compensated for that time. That's the only way I can do it, man. So if you want to be a producer and produce something up and find, all the fact sheets and everything about something, and a lot of you are really good at this, then we can definitely do that. But yeah, even just Facebook chat. It takes me a little while to get back to you, but if I see new faces, I definitely come in there and check you out first, because I haven't talked to you ever. I'm definitely running way behind on comments and replies to all of you, so I do apologize. I usually have a really good percentage rate of almost 100% reply rates on anything you do. At least I'm liking your comment, which means I did read it. So if it comes to the Deep Thoughts Radio account, that's me and only me. So I do share moderators on other platforms, especially the Facebook one. So I want to thank Kaz and Tim and David for helping me out there. But anyway, if you haven't been to deepthoughtsradio.com, please understand we've got the audio podcast version of this as well. It's great for the car, long trips. You just put in a little assembly line, keep going. Obviously, we have the video, all the social media. We have more alternate social media than mainstream, so please know that. We're on Getter, Gab, Minds, and 107 Daily. We have Twitter and Facebook as the official ones. We have an all-new remastered Season 1. We have some really fun shirts in the shirt area. We have, let's see, four major shirts. We've got one that's an Apollo really shirt, which is like, really? They really went with this piece of junk called the Apollo lander. We have the Lunar Lander. We have D-Thoughts Radio University, which is 2015 number on there, which is when the show was started. And it's sort of like the show is a university sort of online. And if you guys start talking to each other, you'll find you have a lot in common with each other. We have a UFO shirt saying, let's talk about UFOs. And then I have the two new ones, which are the McDonald's sign spinoff, which is one says propaganda, billions served, and one says bullshit, in case you can wear a dirty word. You can get one of those two as well. So if everyone is purchasing those, thank you. Do realize I've just got one model on the website, but if you want it in a bunch of different designs, you want a tank top, you want, a hoodie or whatever, just click to the store and then start surfing around, because the other form factors are there for you to purchase. For those of you who want to support the site and the movement, I've got PayPal and Patreon. To all those who donate, thank you so much. As of this recording right now, we're 10 away from 5,000. But the show has been consumed 72 years. If you add up all the hours viewed, and for one little dude in the backyard, I think we've done great. So I appreciate all of you viewing stuff. For those of you who just come on board and you dig sort of the formula and the format of the show, trust me, you've got weeks and weeks and weeks of content to listen to, even if you try to marathon it. But anyway, take care of yourself and someone else, and I'll see you in the next Deep Thoughts. Over now.